To create this keepsake trinket box, all I used was a raw wood box, some Mod Podge, some Elmer's glue, that black and white paint, and some paintbrushes. So what I started off by doing was giving my raw wood box just a nice coating of white paint, and I found this box at Michael's. It was just a couple dollars. You could use the half-off coupon, get it for even cheaper, and we're just going to recreate this into something that looks like it's from Z Gallery or just something a little bit more expensive and nice. So I gave it a nice coating of white paint first and allowed that to dry. I did a total of 2 coats on the entire box just so it was fully opaque. And then what I did next was go in with a coat of Elmer's glue. And I used to do this all the time when I used to DIY a long time ago. I thought it was such a cool effect and I'm bringing it back. So you're just going to do a nice, pretty thick coat of Elmer's glue. Not super thick to where it's like overflowing, but just give it a nice even coating of Elmer's glue across the entire surface. And you're going to want to work on this in sections on the box. You don't want to do this all at once because you're going to need it to dry perfectly straight. And then what you're going to do is get a lot of black paint on and just kind of evenly brush it on top of the Elmer's glue. So just go over the top of the glue. Do not try to mix it together. More so add more paint than you think you would need so it just sort of glides over the top of the glue, and just coat the entire top surface over the glue. And as it dries, it's actually going to crack. So this is like a 4-minute drying session sped up. You can kind of see how it cracks a little bit. And as it continues to dry, it's going to crack and crack until it's fully dry. And then you can add a nice coat of glossy Mod Podge, which is really going to give it a shine and finish off your little trinket box. This next gift here is the perfect one for you and your best friend. So I just used a little bit of shiny pink fabric, some black yarn, fabric glue, scissors, and I also did use a sewing machine, but you can use a needle and a thread, and it is inspired by this Urban Outfitters pillow, which I'm going to link below. But what I started off by doing was taking my pink fabric, which I got at Joann's Fabrics. This is a satin crepe fabric. I couldn't find the velvet fabric that they were using, and I just used a Sharpie to sort of map out and just eyeball a heart shape. And I just love eyeballing everything. If you can definitely like print out a template or create it first on paper and then draw it on if you want to, but I'm just much more of like a just go for it kind of person. So that's exactly what I did. And I just cut my heart out on the fold so that way when you open it, it's perfectly even. And I made this heart about 14 inches tall just so it had a nice substantial height in it. When you cut it in half in the end, you want it to have like a substantial look to it. You don't want the 2 sides to be super small. And then what I did was recreated that same step, cutting out another piece because you're going to need a front and a back piece of fabric for your heart pillow. Once you have both of those fabric hearts cut out, you can just go down the center of the fabric hearts with your Sharpie or your marking tool. You can use chalk, whatever it may be, and just create a random jagged line. This is just going to sort of create that little bonding moment, I guess you can say. And I'm just going to cut both fabric pieces together at the same time with a pair of scissors, right down that jagged line, just so that we can then have our 2 separate pillows that we're going to be using. I used a couple of sewing pins around the entire edge of both hearts just so that it would hold the pieces together for when I sew them. And you are going to want to sew all the way around the outside edge of these jagged heart pieces, leaving just about a 2-inch opening so you're able to add stuffing in there afterwards. So I just used a sewing machine on a normal, just straight stitch all the way around the edge. It was super easy to do. I stuffed my pillow actually with a old pillow I had. I just pulled all the stuffing out of the old pillow and repurposed them. The most asked question on my channel is, where do you store all of your pillows? And I'm like, I just reuse them and repurpose them. So I'm gonna fold it inside out, and once you have your pillow folded inside out, you can actually just use a pencil to like poke out all of the little points or anything like that, and then I'm going to stuff it with some stuffing from an older pillow. And once you have it fully stuffed, you can go and add a seam right to that edge to close it off, but I actually just use a little bit of fabric glue to close it off. And then that is the 2 sections of the heart, but we are not completely done yet because now we're going to add the yarn portion, which is super easy. Again, I eyeballed the entire portion of this section. I just eyeballed out the word best friends, and it cascades across both pillows. And you could sew this on if you wanted to, but I just honestly thought it would be easy to just quickly glue it on with some fabric glue. And I went all the way down adding the words best, and then I added the word friends right underneath in a little bit of a smaller font, I guess you could say. And that essentially finishes off your best friend's pillow. This sweater here is probably my favorite DIY in the video, and all I used was 2 different sweaters and some scissors, and I also used a sewing machine, or you can use a needle and thread. So what I started off by doing was getting 2 different sweaters. This Illinois one was from H&M, and the Champion one was from Urban Outfitters. It's just an old one that I upcycled. But keep in mind that if you're cutting these sweaters in half, so you're thinking to yourself like, wow, why am I cutting these in half? But in the end, you're actually going to get 2 sweaters. You're going to sew them back together, both of the halves together, and you're going to have 2 brand new sweaters, but they're going to be repurposed, upcycled, and they're going to be much more personalized and fun. I just love the way that the 2 sweaters look when they're sewn together. And I also do suggest trying to find 2 sweaters that are a little bit of a different size, because it adds a lot of interest if the hemlines or the necklines don't match up. I think it really adds a visual nice interest to it. So after you cut the 2 sweaters in half, I used a couple of sewing pins down the center just to hold those sweater portions in place as I was going to go across it and sew it with the sewing machine. Once it's all pinned up, I popped it in my sewing machine and just did a couple back and forth stitches to start off the sewing process, and then did just a straight stitch all the way down the front side of the sweater. And as you're going, you can either remove the pins or leave them in. I actually sew with the pins in. I learned that at the sewing school I went to. You can just leave them in and your sewing machine will just go right over them. There's the occasional time when it might hit the pin, but it's never happened to me. It's happened to me like one time before. And you're just gonna sew again all the way down the front using a straight stitch, and then when you get to the end, to the neckline or the finishing point, just do a couple of back and forth stitches just to really lock in that section. And then you can pull out all of the pins and see your finished front panel of your sweater. And I love the way that this looks. I think that the cool tone gray and then like the warm tone tan colors look really pretty together on this particular sweater. And I also leave the tags on there because I think it kind of gives that whole reworked and redone vibe. I just like the way it looks when you sew the tags on there too, but you can cut them out if you want to. And again, I did it on the back side, sewing the wrong sides together. That way when you flip it out, it is the correct sides on the outside. So then I flipped out the entire sweater here, and that is your finished half cut and sewn sweater. And again, repeat it to the other halves that you cut, and you have 2 sweaters. I'm so happy with how this last project turned out, and all I used was a wooden hanger, some aluminum wire in a gold color, scissors, and some spray paint in a gold color as well. And this project is super easy, and this aluminum wire makes it super easy as well. So all I did was take this wire, which was found in the floral section at your craft store, and I just wrapped it around the bottom part of this wooden hanger. This one is from IKEA, by the way, just to let you guys know. And all you're going to be doing with this is just wrapping it around that little bottom section, and as you're going, every so often, as you keep wrapping, you're going to create a little peg, as you can see here, that's kind of sticking out the bottom, which we're going to then create a hook out of. So you're just going to bend it up and create a hook. And these hooks are actually pretty strong. Like, I was surprised with how many pieces of jewelry I was allowed to put on each one. And I love the way that it looks. I think it looks so organic, very Anthropologie, or like, I don't know, handmade. It has a very handmade quality to it, but it also looks super expensive. Like this could have cost like $80 to $100 in an Anthropologie or at like a craft fair or something. So I totally love the way that this turned out. And it was just a vision I had in my head. No inspiration really from anything. I just thought it was a cool idea. And I wrapped the aluminum wire all the way down to the end of the panel, creating a total of, I think, about 6 hooks in the end, which is pretty substantial. You could hang quite a bit of jewelry off of this. And I loved how I created the hooks at different lengths as well, because I think it gives a lot of visual interest to this piece. And then I use a tiny bit of gold spray paint on the hook at the top of the hanger, and that finishes off your jewelry holder.
Thank you for checking out this video. Make sure you like it, you comment it, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel so you can continue receiving amazing videos just like this. So thanks for tuning in. Until next time, see you then. Enjoy your day. Stay awesome.